alongside with Shinsekai and Raven, so we'll see how Quake does against AHQ.
And for AHQ, a solid victory here reminds all those top teams that, you know what, they can't be let down to some of these, bottom squads. They don't drop games. That Liav was a fluke game. Never talk about it again. That's what they're trying to put in their back of their minds. Let's go ahead, though, and get it into draft. Going to start things off here with the Thresh, as well as the Ezreal being banned out here by Resurgence. AHQ going to get rid of both that Twisted Fate and Syndra. Some major picks for Raven.
Yeah, I love the contrast. Resurgence focusing a little bit more on a little bit of balance, mostly towards bottom side of the map. AHQ, no surprise whatsoever, as Set has been that flex pick either in 4 different roles. They're going to take that out immediately.
And for Epic, though, this is a little bit of a change-up. Usually we get to see the Trundle or often the Lee Sin, but this time around, the Nidalee has made it through and is going to get locked in.
Yeah, this is going to be the first time we're going to be seeing Epic on that Nidalee. I mean, he did have a history at least picking maybe the Kindred, possibly even the Graves. So that power farming side of things is no stranger for Epic. And meanwhile for AHQ, of course, Aphelios is open.
Yeah, if it's open, they'll happily pick it up if you're on the side of AHQ, and then usually try and lock down something for Kongya in the jungle to try and at least go toe-to-toe with Epic, especially when he's getting something aggressive. But maybe they say, all right, well, we know what? Uniboy, he likes his carries, he likes his 1v1 champions. Let's give it to him up against Raven. That's the Zoe lock-in.
Yeah, and for AHQ, they're extremely brave, having to lock in Uniboy Zoe very early in the draft. And meanwhile, for Resurgence, having Renekton this time around for possibly Shinsekai, maybe even for Raven, as again, he picked this up before in spring.
And now, like you mentioned, it could get flexed into mid. We aren't sure just yet, but for Resurgence, they are going to get Boxer onto Leona. This is actually the champion that he first made his debut with Resurgence, and though he was rather aggressive, was a little bit disconnected when it came to the rest of the squad of Resurgence, so we'll see whether or not those communication issues have been sorted out.
Yeah, Boxer on Leona, very curious as RSG is forming up for an aggressive composition so far. And Rek'Sai for Kongya. It's actually been a while since we've seen a Rek'Sai for Kongya. Actually, since spring, I believe.
I'm kind of shocked.
No, once.
Yeah, we did see the Rek'Sai once overall in summer. I believe it was also River that picked it up over for PSG, and we felt like there was just better options at the moment, especially when you take a look. There's also Graves still available. There was still the Lee Sin that Kongyu loves to play. Instead, opting into something of a composition we'd see more often back in spring.
Yeah, it's very well paired and synergized as well with your carry mid laners because you have a very strong level 3. It's very easy, usually paired with the Trinity mid laners such as the Syndra LeBlanc on towards the Rek'Sai. And, no questions whatsoever because AHQ can mix it up a little bit when it comes to their draft, be a little bit aggressive and have a little bit of scaling on the side.
All right, there. So getting rid of the Ashe and the Kalista. Some options for Quake. And again, Quake, he's that mystery icon when it comes to Resurgence right now. What are we actually going to see? Are we going to see them possibly, maybe take a Syndra down to that bot lane? That's kind of been the answer sometimes to the Aphelios that we saw back in spring. Not as much ever since the nerfs came on through. Meanwhile, top, though, getting rid of the Ornn for Civ, as Civ has his option to counterpick here, too, as AHQ decided to lock in the mid so early.
Exactly, for RSG, the stage is actually being set for Raven once more on the side of RSG. And as for AHQ, Mordekaiser being locked in as one of the, I suppose, safe picks when it comes to the top side of the map. And you're going up as a Renekton, maybe, if that doesn't go towards the mid lane.
So still some options here for Resurgence, whether or not Raven wants to do it. Or do we see a fallback to the Ziggs? I believe Resurgence was the only other team so far in summer to pick it up and throw it into the bot lane. Their answer is going to be ranged to this Aphelios as it does get looked in. Never mind. They throw a curveball at the last second. That is going to be the Lucian. Also, we have to see actually where this all pans out because we have seen Shinsekai play Lucian in top lane before.
There's so many mind games because we've seen, the AD carries in the mid lane as well. Back in spring, Kalista played by Uniboy back in the mid lane as well. So again, for RSG, there's still a lot of mind games in their draft, even though they've already locked in everything.
And there you go. Final lock-in is going to be this Nautilus for Ysera if he gets to be aggressive himself, and it looks like actually the Lucian is going to go over to Raven here in mid lane up against Uniboy Zoe.
Yeah, the matchup is great. You do have some form of mobility when it comes to dodging any sort of, you know, crazy or rather scary skill shots from the Zoe. And again, just because you have that constant damage as that AD carry, Uniboy, I'm a little bit afraid if the lane will not be handled properly for him.
Well, we'll see here whether or not you're also going to have some appearances come out from Epic on that Italy. And I feel a little bit bad for Quake. His very first, debuted here into the PCS. You get to play something like a Ziggs, not going to be showing off, I guess, all your mechanics. More or less just trying to soak up as much pressure in that bot lane and maybe try and abuse the Aphelios early on.
Yeah, having to deal a lot of pokes and as well as set up for potential, set up for potential kills. As again, Ziggs' poke is very, very painful. And if you add that level 6 in, there's absolutely no escape because of how large that AoE is. And yeah, getting early plates, getting towers as well, left and right for the Ziggs. This could spell well for RSG. Just a little bit worried when it comes to the execution, as they're very power hungry or gold hungry, item hungry when it comes to each of the lanes.
Yeah. I think also when you have a Ziggs being picked up here for Quake, it also streams for your supports to go for Little Johns throughout the Rift themselves. So expect Boxer, expect Ysera to be making appearances in toward that mid lane alongside their jungle. I feel like we're going to have some explosive fights early on, and Resurgence need to. They need to make an impact. They need to make a statement if they want to have a shot at making playoffs, and they have a tough task ahead of them as they take on AHQ.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Minion spawn.
And on to the Rift we go. Been informed that we have quite a lot of new viewers joining us today. We do welcome you over here to the PCS. If you chose this match to be your introduction, you got yourself a bit of a fiesta coming, to say the very least. Anytime Resurgence is on the map, especially if you're going to be drafting a Lucian mid as well as the Ziggs bot lane. It's been a while since we've seen Ziggs in the bot lane. You're always up for a fun time.
Yeah, for RSG, it's going to be absolutely explosive. We did mention there's a lot of damage output in every single lane, Epic, Raven, and Quake, especially Shinsekai as well when his lane actually goes well, because most of the time we see teams kind of take advantage of Shinsekai. Some of the games.
Well, especially this one, he's going up against Ziv, which arguably is a pretty intimidating opponent, to say the very least, even though Ziv has been nursing, of course, that wrist injury that he did occur in the first 4 weeks of summer. He made his debut back in summer last week, looked to be in top form, was more or less on tanks. This time around, though, he is a little bit on a brawler in the form of that Mordekaiser.
Yeah, and you pair that up with an aggressive jungle pick, such as that Rek'Sai, it really enables any sort of lane to be open of kills coming from HQ against RSG.
So we'll keep tabs here, as both jungles are going to actually be starting on the bot side of their map and then making their way up toward the top side here. As the quick question is, who's going to be striking first? Do we expect Epic or do we expect Hongyu to actually be the first one onto, I think, this mid lane matchup in particular?
I expect Hongyu to make his first visit, because after that red buff, it's going to be setting up for a really good level 3, especially since Shinsekai is a little bit extended into the lane. But since that wave is already crashing towards Ziv, this enables Shinsekai, or signals Shinsekai to, to ward early, just in case Hongyu decides to do so.
Yeah, and on top of that too, some deep vision also notes out that Raptor camp is being taken. I don't think the Rek'Sai herself is actually shown, though Hongyu might just show just now if he decides to path up in toward the river right away. Or he might take the long approach around, and if he did, that's some really good scouting coming out from AHQ, as it depends on whether or not Resurgence actually were keeping track of that Raptor camp. There you go, there's your pings.
Yeah, there are the pings already, which means Epic will make that first visit. And since the lane is a little bit extended, it's going to be a little bit awkward and hoping towards, that counter gank instead of, Epic's path towards top.
Yeah. Epic, unfortunately, not going to be able to do a whole lot there. Of course, Ziv, it's going to be just fine. You do expect that Mordekaiser to be pressured early on, and once you hit level 6, it's rather difficult to actually jump on top of him, but some early control here by Epic might actually look for an invade. He try and catch out Kongyu. Not a whole lot he can do, but he might be just looking for that top lane dive.
Yeah, everything is clear, but yeah, Ziv a little bit extended on the lane. This is a nice setup to burn a flash or maybe a kill.
There we go. Grass back is going to knock back the Renekton. In comes that spear, going to mark, and they'll see whether or not they can finish off Ziv. That is not going to be the case, though, as he's able to live. Epic, though, underneath the tower. That's your first blood. Traded right back on over to Ziv, but that is your early Singapore aggression already coming out of Resurgence.
Okay, so it's just one of those things where Epic is like, okay, we committed so much, might as well just get that kill, get that first blood, extra gold, but unfortunately, there is an exchange that happened as Epic dies to the tower. And meanwhile, Uniboy...
Wow, Raven pops that cleanse, actually just jumps on forward, tries to take down Uniboy with them, but unfortunately that Ignite was used after the cleanse. Some good timing coming out of there from Uniboy is going to net him that solo kill in mid lane.
I love the question marks from Uniboy too, but wow, yeah, and absolutely Raven did not expect that in the mid lane, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think Raven was expecting, the hyper-aggression. He had to cleanse something. Unfortunately, Ignite still in the back pocket there for Uniboy. Is able to net the quick kill, and this is the aggression that we saw from Uniboy back in spring when he went for solo kills non-stop in mid lane. That's why he had like a 38 KDA back in week 3 of spring. He had the highest KDA overall worldwide. We haven't seen that until the second half now of summer, which, again, coming on over from Mad Team alongside Kongyu was that extra burst of excitement you could say AHQ needed after being, again, those long-standing titans of the elements.
Yeah, didn't even need wait, Epic.
Epic, he's got to be careful here, though. Bubble is going to land. Uniboy, though, is level 6, but deciding not to go for the play as Ysera and Boxer, there you go, your supports roaming already before the 6-minute mark.
Having to match, Boxer is a move towards the mid lane just in case RSG decides to get an exchange skill, as Uniboy is able to solo kill Raven earlier on. But yeah, this is RSG, again, making the plays at least, being a little bit more active to take advantage of how painful their early game composition is.
So not a bad start here, I think on both sides, but if AHQ are able to get Dragon control right away, that is one thing that Resurgence used to excel at, but unfortunately has been letting it slip by as of late when it comes to their summer split. And with absolutely no vision also, as well as priority mid lane, that's an easy first Dragon here for AHQ.
Yeah, and because Uniboy has taken over the mid lane against Raven here, no summoner spells, no cleanse for Raven, therefore he's going to be a little bit more careful on dodging any sort of aggressive sleepy trouble bubble. And Kongyu?
Aggressive, Raven has to be careful if he decides to do that once again, as Kongyu isn't level 6 just yet, but you do see AHQ already going for that deep invade. Is spotted out by a ward, so that will keep Resurgence safe. I'm interested, though, are they actually going to try and fight over this red buff? That's 4 members of each team actually coming on over the wall. Is Boxer not able to land the Zenith Blade? Raven, though, is able to secure the buff, so that's always a good shot, but let's see whether or not Uniboy is going to let them get away. Epic able to jump out of safety. Kongyu not able to get the knock-up with the flash. Raven may want to try and turn back the fight. A nice piercing light, able to get some damage. In comes the calling, and there you go. Raven taking down Ysera, as now Resurgence, they are happy for the bloodbath when it comes to the jungle matchup. Boxer is able to find himself a kill, and Wako unfortunately has nowhere left to run, has the blast cone to get himself to safety though. And there you go, Resurgence able to strike back up against AHQ.
Well, hello. AHQ was just very aggressive, having to use flashes to get a knock-up on towards Epic, even without vision over that part of the deeper parts of the map of RSG's jungle. And the thing is, all this time, Quake was busy distracting Wako, therefore he was unable to join this fight, and therefore AD carry is present in the form of the solution in the mid lane for Raven.
And you know what? Resurgence are starting to bring out some of that old LST style of League of Legends. Old of the GPL, you could say. Often aggressive, not backing down up against AHQ, which, you know, in all honesty, a lot of people, including myself, had Resurgence pretty written off, but this start has me almost convinced here that there is a possibility they could take down AHQ.
Yeah, I mean, if RSG is going to continue to punish how HQ is playing right now, they've been very, very aggressive so far, very confident, which is understandable because HQ at the top of the charts right now for the, round robin, RSG so far has only garnered 1 win, and therefore, I see the reason why HQ has been a little bit confident when it comes to going up against this matchup.
Yeah, maybe they wrote them off themselves, but Epic now going to come up, and this has been just the go-to combo again and again, but Death Realm is going to be popping, and Shinsuke has to be the one that finishes this one off. Unfortunately, he will not be able to. Ziv, able to get the flash off, does not avoid the spear. In goes Epic, trying to finish off the kill. He will find it, but Kongyu able to trade one back. It's going to be a 2-for-1 in the top lane for AHQ, and it doesn't slow down just now, as again, Bubble is going to land. Raven just gets tapped, Ysera coming on over, and I love how the supports have become a second jungle in this matchup, as Rift Herald going to be started off by AHQ.
Woo, that's an absolutely tough domino effect. It all started, having Epic join topside, unable to get the kill off of that 1v2 situation because of that Death Realm. And surprise, surprise, Kongyu is nearby, and because of the absence of the jungler, therefore Kongyu is able to freely take this Rift Herald for AHQ.
So there you go, Rift Herald secured by AHQ. If they really want to, can try and funnel some of that gold onto Wako in particular. That has been the common go-to play for AHQ. And though we are seeing all this action early, AHQ, they always have that Aphelios in their back pocket for the late game.
Yeah, and that's the reason why it's scary, and that's the reason why RSG is very pressured to make these aggressive plays, because that's exactly why they formed this comp in particular. It's just so that Kong is also in those early, game, and an early game jungler, such as the Rek'Sai, therefore is able to match Epic's constant, ganks in, especially topside.
So consistency, and we'll see whether or not that's going to be the case, but for this time around, too, it does allow Shinsuke in particular to be able to show off a little bit here. We've been consistently asking, where is this promised talent? We have been told time and time again by members of the coaching staff, like Jensen, who says, he thinks Shinsuke could possibly be one of the best top laners in the region. He just needs the proper support staff around it. This time around, Epic is at least trying to apply pressure. But speaking of pressure, AHQ looking to set up this Herald bot lane and try and get a Rift Herald onto the turret plating and get Wako some of that much-needed gold on the Aphelios.
Yeah, funneling more gold towards this scary carry when it comes to the later stages of the game. And it's definitely all according to plan because, Quake is being shoved towards his own tower. That's going to fall down soon. And less control means less dragon control as well when it comes to the bottom side of the map. And 8 seconds on the clock as the dragon is going to be spawning, as HQ has been getting most of the objectives, such as the Rift Herald and as well as the first dragon of the game.
Are starting to see, though, your first items come online for both sides. Again, jungle enchants have been completed. Kongyu does have that warrior enchant. It might be looking for a play here in mid lane, as you saw him on the mini-map trying to go. Raven, though, able to get himself back to safety. But there you are. Black Cleaver online here for the Renekton. And we do see Resurgence actually want to try and set up a play here with Teleport being available from their top side.
The back timing is perfect as well. He's able to, just as you mentioned, pick up the items already, just in case they need to fight. Raven also has complete summoner spells, so that's something adding to a little bit more safety. They have to press that go button if they're keen to attack, because this is going to happen.
That's very much the go button being used here as Ysera pops that death charge. In comes Uniboy, Ignite ticking down. Boxer, though, able to get himself back into stasis, had that stopwatch, but still will get taken on down. Raven wants to try and turn this one around alongside Shinsuke with the teleport from the Renekton. Some low health bars on the side of AHQ, but Wako wants to try and escort them back to safety. Ziggs on the side, trying to apply damage from afar. You see Shinsuke gets the stun, but in comes Ziv. He has his own teleport, and maybe a turnaround here from Wako, able to get some damage, and there's your killing spree for Uniboy. He flashes on over, wants to make it a double, and he will for AHQ.
My, oh my. Okay, the first time around, AHQ invading RSG's jungle. Okay, RSG wins that one, but this time around, everyone is complete. Wako is with them in that fight in particular, and RSG has already dished out all important ults, but is unable to kill off Ysera, and therefore none to be used on the carries and are still alive and well.
And with that too, that should allow AHQ to actually pick up their second dragon of the game, which unfortunately, we wanted Resurgence to be the ones with some dragon control. You want to try and prevent that soul from going on over to the team with the Aphelios. You want to try and get that yourself, and it's only a Cloud Dragon, but still, nonetheless, it has hampered their progress, and it's going to let Wako just scale up now he's finished off his Infinity Edge.
And this poses another problem for RSG if they do want to get that skirmishes going for themselves. And at least good news for Quake, already completed his Ludens Echo, so at least a little bit more control over the lane at least. But yeah, it all started with that Sleepy Trouble Bubble landing on towards Boxer.
Yeah, Boxer, unfortunately, he can stall out things as long as possible, and it's almost a really nice turnaround at the very least here from Resurgence, but Civ was able to follow that teleport that Shinsekai brought on down.
And the sad part about it is that none of them is able to create a reliable engage without Boxer. They need that Leona for this composition to work if they are keen on fighting together, especially if they want to punish an invade in the jungle. Unfortunately, it is Boxer that has fallen first in that fight.
And if we come back to what we expected to see out of this early game, we have seen what we thought would happen. We were expecting to see, supports looking to roam around. We wanted to see Epic try and get that top lane rolling in favor of Shinsekai. But even with all of those factors decently going okay here for Resurgence, considering what we have seen out of them from Summer, it's still going to be a 2,500 gold lead for HQ and them looking to just knock down a single tower in bot lane as Wako trying to press on forward. That's everything being blown on to this Aphelios, but they are still not able to turn it back. Boxer, though, wants to finish off the kill. Quake is actually able to find it. Meanwhile, though, Epic was taken on down. Wako now into 2v1, gets himself the stun off from the grab gun, and now Quake is the main target. Boxer's going to soon follow, and that is the turnaround coming out from Wako as Boxer in the alcove. Unfortunately, nowhere to run himself. Might be able to make it up toward the river as Raven is roaming down.
Whew, okay, so at least Boxer is able to escape with his life, but not so much on Quake. I feel like RSG is able to utilize that dive air quote a little bit more when the tower is a little bit more healthy. Therefore, Ysera is able to, eat more of those tower hits. But that's quite unfortunate. They're not able to punish this, and Wako again without IE makes things a little bit more harder.
Yeah, because if you take a look at the map in your bottom right, there's absolutely no vision coming out here from Resurgence. If they want to try and, even make plays, there's just nothing they could really do, and it's just an easy turn. Just Wako doing Aphelios things at this point.
Yep, doing Aphelios things. Wako's still pretty much healthy. Quake and Boxer not the healthiest in the world, and therefore an easy cleanup. And AHQ, this snowballed into more control after eliminating Epic as well, and that's going to be the second Rift Herald of the game.
And that's another tool that Resurgence could have used to try and, pick up the pace on their side. And now, Shinsekai himself might be looking at a dive that, unfortunately, with the Rift Herald means AHQ can easily go for Ysera. No ultimate available himself, does not have the exhaust, but still it doesn't matter. The knockup is there, and with Shelly, they're able to go ahead and knock down this turret in top lane. And now control over to AHQ across the map as Uniboy was able to find himself another tower mid.
Yeah, no flash as well for Shinsekai, so definitely an easy take, and as well as getting a lot of value over this Rift Herald as the second charge kicks in onto the inner tower at the top side of the map. And because of that, AHQ, again, another jungle part of a RSG conquered in the map.
And it lets them just siphon away gold easily on the side of AHQ away from Resurgence. That's going to open up now a 4,000 gold lead as now you start to see other items come online. Ludens was completed by Uniboy on his most recent back, now opting into, of course, the Ionian Boots. Going to get some extra cooldown himself, and it's starting to look a little scary if you're a Resurgence fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially all of the lanes. For RSG is in a very awkward position, and any of the key carries of AHQ had a very comfortable lane, if you will, as, again, you see Wako having the early lead and able to get a few kills at the bottom side of the map.
Well, Bubble gonna land here onto Boxer, but you can see almost half healthing the Leona. That's your tanky member of Resurgence when it comes to the later part of this game, and Uniboy's already half healthing his AHQ. Looking to set up now for their third Dragon of the game. Looks like Shinsekai will be able to at least take down a tower. Does have teleport available, but Civ is already there, so I'm interested to see whether or not Resurgence even try and fight this.
Okay, there are a couple of wards that are set up for any sort of teleport flank plays, so Shinsekai has a good entry, but this Dragon is getting shredded so easily, therefore any sort of opportunity for RSG to fight is gone. And again, this comp very very reliant on Boxer set. And if they don't press that go button, it's going to be tricky, as the Sleepy Trouble Bowl is going to chunk you out, as well as the Paddle Star.
Yeah, and now that also sets up AHQ for Soul Point on the next Dragon spawn, and we've seen from Resurgence that it feels like the map is just slipping away from them. They want to play via Shinsekai, and that is still an option here, as all 5 of them looking to pack in toward the top side of the map. Not a whole lot of vision, but the bubble will land in on to Epic, which unfortunately means they are going to get caught out themselves. Ysera spots this one out. Solar Flare comes out from Boxer, and Boxer a little bit miscommunicating, and Civ wants to get the cutoff, able to get rid of that Blast Cone, brings back Shinsekai into the Death Realm, and it's just utter chaos all across the map. Shinsekai gets himself back over to safety. Waka wants to press on forward, but Boxer in the meanwhile will get taken down, and another bubble is going to line up the shot. There's Uniboy dominating on the Zoe. That's 2 more kills in the back pocket of AHQ.
Yeah, just Uniboy thinks, again, on the Zoe that has contributed to his high KDA.
Oh,
I'm
no.
scared for them.
Epic.
Oh, dear.
He even gets the safety, but it's not going to matter. It's a godlike Zoe, and the rest of the team going to crumble with them. That's a delayed Quadra coming out for Uniboy.
AHQ showing that even though you're in the safety of your own jungle, it is definitely still not safe at all, as they've chased them from their own red side jungle to RSG's blue side. And deaths are piling up, bodies are piling up, and for AHQ, again, Dragon, Soul Point, and as well as Baron is in the horizon for them to control.
Yeah, and unfortunately here too, the fact now that Resurgence, you can already start to see, it's not just a player skill mismatch, it's also just team communication. Look at this, they're all over the place here in the jungle of AHQ.
Yeah, and the retreat path, because AHQ was able to get a pincer attack at least, therefore the call was definitely for a retreat. But they're a little bit scattered on that retreat and hoping to farm at least to possibly get a break. But HQ, you know, they don't want RSU to catch a break.
Yeah, and AHQ at this point, they're just playing with their food. The fact now that Uniboy is godlike, got himself now 8 kills on the Zoe, looking to stack up a KDA very similar to what he had back in spring. Unfortunately, for Resurgence, you're kind of hoping to play via your early mid game. It's not really happening.
Yeah, RSG had that really nice punish on HQ as they constantly, you know, they really wanted to invade the red side jungle, but unfortunately unable to replicate that, as again, Boxer is a very important part of this composition if they do want to punish aggressive plays from AHQ. And the fact that you cannot wait to pull that trigger, just because if you don't, Uniboy will be able to catch you and kill you with a sleep bubble and as well as that paddle star.
And even London once again actually able to catch out Quake. And things get really ugly now. You also have Runans completed for Wako on this Aphelios. He's hit his 2 items, got 50% crit chance. He does a lot of damage with that flamethrower if you get anywhere close to him, which Resurgence, they kind of have to. Your range is pretty much only on the Ziggs. Everybody else is very much, I want to get up in your face in the form of that Nidalee after she lands a spear, and the Renekton trying to jump into the backline, and, you know, Lucian being naturally not a high-range AD carry.
Yeah, exactly. Having to use and utilize, you know, the rest of that combo just to get as much damage output as you can. But there's not a lot of escape tools, I suppose, for RSG. They're pretty an all-in sort of composition, and so far AHQ is unable to allow RSG to do that. As again, Uniboy always getting these important picks, and now they're knocking towards, you know, Baron Pit's door as they're hitting on that, and RSG knows this is happening.
And unfortunately, that Aphelios combo for the gun setup will absolutely destroy Baron, as again, spears are just going to be eaten up here by Ziv, and maybe a Miracle Steal, but it's not going to happen as, oh my goodness, Quake way too far forward. He just gets slammed into the ground by Ziv's mace, and there you go, Baron buff in hand for AHQ.
Yeah, and here I thought there would have been an attempt with the Zig ult at least to time that, but unfortunately, RSG unable to time that perfectly, as they didn't have any sort of vision whatsoever to see whether or not they can time that correctly. And yeah, HQ hoping to see whether or not they can get that Cloud steal potential. I wonder, because it's a little bit risky considering the fact there's just so much CC on the side of HQ to prevent any sort of cheeky steal coming from Epic.
And now, too, in the next 40 seconds, reset is already there for AHQ as they push in the ward line into the jungle of Resurgence. Means this should be an easy take for the last soul.
Yeah, easy take for the last soul. HQ even removing any sort of vision, defensive vision from Resurgence in their own jungle, hoping to see whether or not they can see someone roaming at the wrong place at the wrong time as well. But yeah, HQ full control, as we can see Shinsekai having to split push at least at top side to create some sort of pressure in the map.
Well, that's the hope. You want to try and maybe get an inhibitor, and then maybe you find a lucky fight in your favor, but you're now looking at an 8,000 gold lead. 6 towers now taken by AHQ. Full control toward the bot side of the map, and this is even a 3-man push. With the fact that, you know, Ziv as well as Kongyu have actually rotated into mid lane, just trying to get that wave to crash in as well.
Yeah, having to utilize the Baron buff even more to create more value off of that play, and since they do have full map control anyways, they're not in a hurry too much when it comes to getting that Cloud Soul. But now, it seems to me that will be that call, as Shinsekai will have to be forced to go back as all objectives in favor of HQ, as RSG has to play defense.
And Raven, if he wants to be that star carry for this team to try and bring everything back in on the side of Resurgence, he can't be that far forward. He cannot be within ult range of Ysera in the mid lane where you're just trying to clear out minions, considering this fact unfortunately this Lucian only sitting on an item and a half. You also have Epic that went to opt into the Roa at 20 minutes, so that Roa is not even going to be fully stacked until 30. I feel like AHQ are planning to end this game before that.
Yeah, they have the capability to do so.
In comes that snipe, but the minion will be able to at least soak up one bullet, but oh my lord, the fact that Shinsekai is getting soloed by Kongyu alongside a quick snipe coming out from Uniboy, I think spells the end of Resurgence's hope, considering the fact that you wanted to play via this Renekton that had a decent CS lead. Raven wants to try and pull the trigger with the calling, but guess what? Tower already down in bot lane.
And there goes a 1v1. Yeah.
I think that pretty much spells out how this game has gone. It looked hopeful at the beginning. Epic everywhere across the map. But then AHQ, they said, all right, we get one item, and now we're actually going to play some League of Legends. And this is very much what we expected out of AHQ. A dominating victory against Resurgence, only giving up towers in the one lane that was pretty much camped by Epic, and now 2 inhibitors fall, make it the 3rd, double supers onto the base, and Resurgence's time may be up here.
And the thing is, you know, you picked up that Lucian hoping to see whether or not Raven is able to bully the lane, but unfortunately, you know, that first setup, having the Proto Belt early and everything else just fell onto place, and, you know, Raven is unable to pick up the pieces since then. And you see the result of AHQ having to be basically everywhere in the form of Kongye. And now they'll be satisfied having to remove every single inhibitor off of RSG, waiting off for the reset.
Now we just take a look at some of the solo kills that happened in mid. Is Shinsekai's the one that wanted to take this fight, and then he kind of realizes that was a mistake. As, you know, this mad team duo of Uniboy and Kongyu, ever aggressive, and we'll see what, I think Raven just gets chunked out by a paddle star. Yeah,
I'm curious to see, and
he gets caught out in
angle.
side lane.
No.
And we mentioned Raven was the consistent one of Resurgence, and now he is starting to falter.
It has been a tough, I suppose, 15 minutes so far for Raven, as having to resort to just farm since he did not get ahead in the lane. And AHQ is taking advantage of that as having to follow him in whatever side lane he is farming. They're there, and they have the capability to do so, as, you know, Raven still has Flash, but AHQ taking their time to get this victory off this map.
I'll take a look. It's just Raven getting too comfortable outside his base.
Yeah, it's a very dark map too. And I mean, there's no Baron at the top side of the map, therefore probably not assuming that they're going to be roaming around, but your jungle is still there. The HQ would love to steal away and constrict more resources away from RSG, but unfortunately, you only have the comfort of your own base to safely farm, as HQ is just on a patrol death squad, if you will.
And they're on a different level. Unfortunately, Quake on the Ziggs, though he has good wave clear, unfortunately he's actually opted to go into the Oblivion Orb, just get some extra pen, and now going into his Rabadon, so he delayed his second item at this point. He's not doing a whole lot himself. And it looks like AHQ, they just say, all right, we're going to take Baron, and then we'll end the game. At any point, they could have ended this game, by the way. This is them. Actually, this will be one negative check, you could say, when it goes on the record up against Resurgence, as I think they had the tools to end this without even, you know, possibly looking to give up a Baron, or if they wait long enough, an Elder.
Yeah, I guess it's just one of those things where keeping habits, having to wait for the Baron before anything else, even though they are in such a huge lead in items.
Oh my.
Okay, Quake. Oh dear.
Quake. Woohoo! Civ just half the health gone with one mace, and there is your one pick. That is your go button being used. Isera with the depth charge, going to go ahead, get the root immediately onto Senskai. Kong getting a little far forward, but unfortunately Boxer, he's going to also join his bot lane as he gets taken down too. Epic will follow the same. Wako is just tuned up and online on this Aphelios, and just like that, AHQ dominate over the Singapore squad of Resurgence, taking home the victory 5-21.
And what again, a dominating performance coming from HQ. Looks like, you know, we saw the uni boy Zoe come from spring. It's just still very, very scary to deal with, as Raven had a very tough lane in this game in particular.
Yeah, he was the one that opted into this Lucian matchup against the Zoe, which has a history of doing okay. Unfortunately, you're going up against Uniboy. And Uniboy found, what, it was 3 solo kills in that lane, on top of then just great follow-up coming out of Konga, and I'll give credit to Epic. He tried to make something happen top. They were able to get a kill or two, and they were aggressive. They played into the jungle. I liked what we saw out of Resurgence in the first 10 minutes of the map, but after that, they kind of just fell back into the common practices we have seen from them so far in summer as well as spring.
Yeah, and once we see that habit sort of rise again from Resurgence, AHQ is just full confidence to keep invading RSG's jungle. Even, again, not a lot of vision to work with, either not a lot put out, or AHQ is just really, really, you know, timely when it comes to removing and dewarding any sort of wards from RSG.
Yeah, because the vision game, too, that's the one thing about AHQ, is once they get ahead, they absolutely suffocate you out of your own jungle. And you saw that's why Raven, he tried to push out past where the second tier tower even stood, and he couldn't do anything at that point. As we take a look back at some of the fights where this kind of summed up most of the game for me, was Resurgence just being all over the place.
Yeah, they were opting for a party brush, but unfortunately the Sleepy Trouble Bubble has been the bane of this game in particular for RSG. They got caught out, and RSG just wanted to retreat, hoping to see if they can just fall back to just farming. But AHQ, relentless. They just wanted to keep going and restricting not only their space, but the resources.
And in you go. It's going to be Uniboy taking home the victory. And the MVP alongside AHQ, as that's going to be a 9-0-3. Zoe, pretty self-explanatory, getting the solo kills in lane and looking rather disgusting once he got the ball rolling, and was also an item up over Raven.
Yeah, and again, it all falls back to the 1v1 in the first, I believe, 10 minutes of the game, where he got the perfect setup, a Proto Belt, Ignite, Flash, and therefore Raven did not absolutely expect that at all. It just came crashing down after that.
Yeah, so for AHQ, they will actually be able to secure a playoff berth as they now have claimed 10 wins, similar to what we saw of Machi earlier on, alongside Taipei J-Team, and that's already 3 playoff slots now locked in. No direct seeds just yet, but as long as they can experiment, they can do whatever their heart desires, they will not be knocked out of playoffs. And we are going to go ahead with a quick interview on over to Sarah alongside Patty.
的话 ，BP 好像几乎都是以 man 角流啊，大家都拿出了最擅长的英雄。不过想要问说，快要接近季后赛，你们目前准备怎么样？
So you guys pick all your main champions in this fight. So do you guys practice any other team compositions for the off season? Did you prepare?
我们这把比赛是因为对手就放什么我们就选什么了，就大家比较熟悉了。那我们其他阵容的话，效果是还不错的，只是可能下一把就有机会拿出来吧。
So in this game, we just pick whatever was left to us, and we just pick the champions that we're most familiar with. Maybe in the next game, we did practice other team compositions, so maybe in the next game we're gonna pick those.
那其实你在这场比赛，在那个红 buff 区域的那波团战，算起到最关键的效果嘛。然后那时候你的惊人拖了很多的时间，是那个时候就觉得这波团战要这样打吗？
So the team fight in the blue side jungle around the red buff area was really crucial for bringing you guys out of your stigma in the early game. So and your zonas was really important, and so for you guys to win that team fight. So I just want to ask you, do you guys already knew that you're going to win that before getting into the fight, or was it luck?
其实那边就只是因为我们在认为我们那边的阵容是强于对面的阵容的，所以那边我们选择入侵。那也不一定知道会不会赢，因为毕竟只是你赢的几率会比对手大，但当下还是得看你选手的操作的。
So I think at that time we decided to go in because we think our team comp is stronger than our opponents, so we decided to make that fight. But it really depends on the members' techniques and how we do in the team fight to determine if we're going to win that.
OK， 那我这边想要加问一个问题，和上一场比赛 Marty 其实是一样的，就是快要进入季后赛，你们可能最不想要遇到的对手是谁？
So now we're getting into the playoffs. Which team do you guys most want to avoid in the playoffs?
最不想遇到的对手嘛，我认为应该是 J-Team 的，因为最近 J-Team 在团战处理方面，事实上是优于我们的，因为大家知道我们在团战处理是我们的特色嘛。 那可能遇到 J-Team 就有点那种强碰头的感觉，所以现在最不想遇到就是他们。
So I think the team that we want to avoid the most is J-Team, Taipei J-Team, because they're really good at team fights at the moment, and team fights is our strong point, and we meet them, it's going to be strong versus strong, and we want to avoid that in the early games in the playoffs.
好的，那也恭喜你们拿下这场比赛的胜利，当然也感谢翻译，也谢谢伊瑟拉接受我们的访问。我这个又是 J-Team， 我刚刚特别又看了你一下，
想把我们读下去。
And just like that, you now take a look at our standings, and 3 slots into playoffs now claimed. Taipei J-Team, AHQ, and Machi all sitting at 10 wins. Liab are not able to catch up to them, and neither are Resurgence. So that playoff race already started to heat up here, especially the fact that we still have 4 teams tied at 5 wins.
And some of these teams still has to face the top 4 as we see in the standings at the moment, especially when we look at Liab, Nova, the ones that has a 4-way tie in the middle of the pack. It's getting pretty scary for the team.
It's getting scary, but we are going to go ahead and take a short break. When we come back, of course, we're going to get into our third matchup. Of course, that's going to be PSG Talent taking on Nova Esports.
CTBC Bank is Taiwan's top financial institution, but we're not stopping there. We're crafting an international brand and already have over 260 outlets in 14 countries. We are by your side, ready to embrace the future.